Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Welcome. There's been a lot of talk today about Basel III. We know what it means for your banks. I'd like to explore for a little bit what it means for small community banks. Wyoming and other rural states rely on small community banks, and while the capital requirements apply to the systemically important banks, I would like to know if there are additional impacts on smaller community banks and their customers. So I'll address the question to Mr. Diamond and then ask anybody else who wants to take a swing at this to weigh in as well.
Yeah, so thank you, Senator. I think the smaller community banks would say they're not directly affected by this, but since a lot of us up here bank those banks, we bank their retirement funds, we bank their cities, we bank other small businesses, we bank local schools, cities, states, hospitals, it will trickle down to higher costs to them in one way or the other. It also changes the competitive landscape. It may, in some ways, make it harder for them to compete with us, as opposed to less hard.
Would anyone else like to take a swing at that one? Thank you. Americans interact with a financial institution through their banks, and they save, like, for kids' college education with mutual funds and protect their family insurance. Can you explain why ultimately these changes will impact families planning for the future? So my question is, what are the impacts of Basel III on pensions, mutual funds, insurance companies, and other users of derivatives who hedge? Now, hedging in my industry, agriculture, is very important. So I'm interested in the implications for hedging and the other entities I mentioned. Perhaps Ms. Frazier, would you address this?
Yes, hedging plays a very important role for protecting against risk and helping mitigate risk, particularly when we're in very volatile times at the moment. It's important for providing stability and income flows. In commodity hedging is a critical piece for any farmer in America. So the increase in capital associated with the Basel III rule will have an impact on the cost of that hedging and potentially even the provision of that hedging. And as you say, it permeates many different parts of our economy and society. It's not just for the most sophisticated players.
I want anyone who's interested in responding to this question to take it. One of the things that my staff observed is that one of the most poorly thought out parts of Basel III is how public listings are used as a proxy for counterparty risk in derivatives, counterparty credit risk in derivatives. So it looks like this will harm, at a minimum, nearly 70 million households who invest in mutual funds. I'd like to know if you agree with my staff's concern and how we might address that. And this is for anyone who wishes to take it. Yes, sir.
It's a very crude measure of risk and doesn't reflect the fact that some of the largest and most sophisticated companies in America are public. So it's just putting in one basket, saying that by definition, if you're not public, and if you look at the trends, in fact, fewer and fewer companies are public these days. That's a whole different kind of debate that we can get into some other time, but it's a terribly crude measure.
Do you know why they chose to make public versus private companies different and treat them different in terms of using them as a proxy for counterparty credit risk in derivatives? Anyone? Well, we don't know either, so we're all in the dark. Okay, question. Why is it, and this again is for anyone who wishes to weigh in, why is it so important that the United States have a regulatory framework that allows our financial institutions to compete on the global stage? As we see the rise of China asserting the influence of the yuan all over the world, help me understand why we have to stay competitive.
I speak as an immigrant to the States. America plays a critical role around the world in terms of supporting supply chains, in terms of the risk management tools it provides, the stability it provides to populations all over the world. The investment flows, we account for over 50% of all of the capital activity and investment activity in the world. That is a strategic asset for America. It's something we should be incredibly proud of, and it's something that we need to defend.
Anyone else?
Okay,
Oh, yeah.
anybody else want to answer? Sure. Okay. I think when you're next to the last, people are getting kind of tired. So
Thank you so much
thank you.
for
Thank you.
coming.